you worked with John Cena a couple of times before you actually worked with him on Peacemaker. And I was privy to a lot of the conversation of people reacting to John Cena as Peacemaker for this, like, wow, I'm surprised of the emotional range and depth he actually has. What's it like for you to be literally witnessing him evolve as an actor?
John has taken it to a level that I'm so impressed with. I hope John doesn't mind if I tell this.
Thank you to HUEL for sponsoring this video. More on them in just a bit.
My friend didn't know that I was going to be having a conversation with you, and he actually bought me this last week as a birthday present because Terminator 2 is indeed my favorite movie of all time.
That is so cool.
I've been on record saying that many a years. So
it's a great film.
It really is.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious. By the way, Greg Alba, Real Rejects podcast here at Robert Patrick today.
Real Rejects. I'm with the Real Rejects.
Yes, you are, sir. I know you talk a lot about Terminator 2, and there was one question that I was like, oh, you know what I would love to ask you is there's been so many kind of like restorations and different editions of Terminator 2. I mean, they had the theatrical release. I once went to ArcLight where you presented the original print.
Oh, you were there. Anna Barsh did that.
Yeah.
My friend, super fan and dear friend, Anna Barsh.
Yeah.
She was working at ArcLight. She presented that.
That was an awesome experience. And then, of course, there's been like the T2 3D re-release. There's been a bunch of versions of it. After all these years, if you were to introduce Terminator 2 to someone, what would be the ideal version you'd want them to see it as?
Well, having seen the cleaned up T2, 4K, whatever it is that he released it in, and digitally that print, that 3D version, it is a gorgeous movie. I mean, just gorgeous. However, Anna did that. She found a print from the early '90s, and she released that. We screened that movie, and that was fun too because, it was a film that was the way they were released back in the day, and it had a different kind of quality to it. So I guess. Either or. I mean, one of them has more of a not clean, kind of grainy, kind of. That was the thing about the original Terminator, that I thought the original Terminator is scarier than Terminator 2 because it has this low budget, kind of grainy horror film kind of quality to it.
Yeah.
That makes it kind of more terrifying. And T2 is super slick.
Yeah.
But equally, I think the clean version, maybe. The 3D version. Yeah, that's what I go with.
That's pretty cool because it keeps evolving with these like restorations that James Cameron keeps doing. So it's interesting that after all these years, the more upgraded it gets, the more you actually appreciate it.
Yeah, I actually got to go to his studio and watch it in his screening room while he was doing, oh Lord, what's the name of what's the movies he's doing right now?
Avatar?
Thank you very much. Jesus, I completely spaced. I went there and I sat there and watched the print there, Terminator 2, the cleaned up print, because I was going out to promote it around the world. I thought it would do better when they released it. I don't know how it did at the box office, to be honest with you.
I think it did pretty well. I remember I went to the screenings in Burbank, and it was pretty packed.
It's interesting what's going on with movies in general. COVID and getting people to go to theaters now. I mean, I guess Superman has, proven that people still want to go to see movies. And Top Gun, Maverick did, I guess.
You've been in this industry for a very long time now, a few decades at this point.
41 years.
41 years. It's an incredible run, and you seem to just kind of keep evolving as an actor. You don't actually seem like you're getting comfortable in a more confident way, but your process still seems to keep evolving. What would you say is things that have changed in Hollywood that have made things more challenging, and things that have changed in Hollywood that have made your job even better or easier to do?
That's a great question. It's interesting. When I came to Hollywood, I started working in the low-budget movies with Roger Corman. I did about 7 movies, I think, for Roger. And it was really my film school. As a matter of fact, on my LinkedIn, I list Roger Corman University as my college, and that was my film school. And I excelled in that Roger Corman world because I could act and do stunts. And that's why they kept hiring me, which actually helped me even when I got Terminator 2. But I've always been approaching it that I'm an actor and I want to get better. And I think you want to try to show your range, and knock on wood, my career has just been where it's cool. And you kind of go like, I really haven't done anything. Maybe Double Dragon was a misstep, but even that you kind of watch it and kind of go, it's kind of campy cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
But I've been very, very fortunate. Number one, that I even got the opportunity to start acting to begin with.
Sure.
From where I started. I was 25 years old when I got out here to Hollywood in a desperate attempt to give myself some sort of purpose and what I wanted to do, and the fact that I was able to start working. It's amazing to me still. And I'm forever grateful for the opportunities that I do get.
Yeah.
The business has changed so much, though. Originally, you were, I think in the 80s and the 90s, you were trying to stay out of TV if you wanted to be a film actor. There was a definite line, and you didn't venture, because if you did, the business will absorb you at whatever level you let it. So I did a lot of movies, and then somewhere in the 90s, the movies I was doing that were going right to DVD, and they're giving me an opportunity to do some cool characters and stuff, but they weren't really that good. And I think when I did The Sopranos, that's when I realized, man, there's some really great writing out there, and you're a fool if you don't, start to look to do things on HBO and stuff like that. Those became even more prestigious to do, And when I did The Sopranos, I think it really opened up a lot of people's eyes. That was such a vulnerable, pathetic character that no one would ever cast me that way, and it gave me some great opportunities.
That was
and then I got into the X-Files, and that's my favorite role I've ever played.
I'll say The Sopranos, that when before talking with you, people have been like, oh yeah, Robert Patrick, and people obviously list some of the heavy hitter ones, Copland included, Walk the Line. But whenever I mention like I was in The Sopranos, people light up whenever I mention your role. They're like, oh yeah, that's right. Because it's so against normally what I guess you might call the type you might play.
Yeah. Well, in my mind, and I have to tell you that I want to express this. I was doing all the pretty horses for Billy Bob Thornton, and he said to me, I was playing Matt Damon's dad, and he said, you got to lose weight. You got to look like you're near death, so you got to lose weight. You still smoking? I said, yeah, I'm still smoking. He said, all right, you drop the weight. So I got very thin.
Yeah.
And when you get that thin, especially a guy like me, I usually go about 220. And I think for T2, I was 160 something.
Wow.
And so I got real thin and felt very vulnerable. And David Chase hit me up with, this is a role you're not going to be cast in. No one would ever see you this way. I think it'd be great. I'd love for you to do it. And I read it and I went, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Because I was very small.
Yeah.
And, normally I could probably go toe-to-toe with James Gandolfini. But I physically, it didn't look like I could. And so it worked. I mean, it was just timing. It was perfect. That's God. I mean, it's just... It just worked out, and I had the greatest experience doing The Sopranos. I love James Gandolfini. The guy was the
legend.
Fucking man. Can you cuss on there?
Yep.
The guy was just amazing.
Yeah.
Just an amazing actor.
Yeah, it was incredible.
I loved working with him, and I'm really happy for his son's success. I took Michael to get his first tattoo.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah,
what was
I
that
took
like?
Michael Gandolfini to get his first tattoo. It was an honor.
Yeah.
Would you take me to get a tattoo, a tribute tattoo to my dad? Sure, I'd be
amazing.
honored. I'd be honored.
That's incredible. I mean, it's so much of the way when I hear you speak, and then even in your role in The Sopranos, your role in Peacemaker, you've played a lot of flawed fathers, I would say.
Yeah.
And
You know, the first father I played was Matt Damon.
really,
Well, Fire in the Sky, I had some kids, but let's say Matt Damon was my first, like, son.
okay,
And then it was Joaquin.
yeah,
And I remember my manager at the time said, well, if you're going to be playing all these dads, you're going to be playing all these dads. and I was like, and then it became, if I listed you the guys that have played my sons over the year, it's an amazing list.
yeah, you got a lot of sons.
I got a lot of sons. I've fallen into this father figure kind of thing.
Well, I was thinking a lot about it on the car ride over here. This might be a slight tangent, but I'm going somewhere with this. Like Terminator 2, when I say it's my favorite movie, it's a movie I associate with my late father. Like when I was a little boy, 3 years old, he bought 2 laser discs. He bought one for the family to watch and one just for me at 3 years old. And Walk the Line, I grew up with Johnny Cash, the only country artist, because of my dad. So we went opening night to Walk the Line. So it's my favorite musical biopic. And like when he died, I buried him with a few Blu-rays because that's the only way we could really dialogue was through movies, and one of them being Terminator 2. And with you being a really prolific actor, and I've heard you speak too about your father perhaps not being like the best about go follow your dreams, son. I'm curious to know what would be some of the movies that you associate as a great movie experience with your children, and what is a great movie experience that you can recall with your father, or a movie that you watch that makes you think of your father?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, 2001, my dad took me to the Fox Theater
Okay.
in Atlanta, Georgia,
Okay.
to see 2001.
Amazing.
I can't remember how old I was, and it blew my mind. And if you haven't been to the Fox Theater in Atlanta, it's pretty cool. It's a historic, iconic movie theater. He took me to see James Bond, Sean Connery in the 60s. The first film I think my father took me to was Boy 10 Feet Tall with Edward G. Robinson, about this boy whose parents are killed and he's roaming the Middle East. It's an interesting movie. Gone with the Wind.
Wow.
My parents were both into the movies
Yeah.
growing up, and they took me along, being the oldest, and they would take me to see these. And it's funny, my parents loved the movies so much, I think that's one of the reasons I sort of drifted into acting. I did get very enamored with how do you get to be one of those people that gets to be up there? I consciously remember thinking about that, like, how do you get to do that? You wondered about it. And then I was, more focused on sports and stuff when I was growing up, and I messed around with some acting every once in a while, but I never really thought that I would be able to pursue it as a career until I realized that nothing else was really capturing my imagination. And creatively, I felt like I had to be one of those people to be up there telling those stories.
Yeah.
My father, and I was just talking about this with my son and my daughter while I was on vacation with them both. My parents grew up in a time where the Great Depression had happened and they had hardship. And my parents my mother's still alive, but they're very worrisome and cautious. And they're not really willing to take risks. My father wanted to be a trumpet player. He was a very good musician, but it seemed like it wasn't sensible. He had an uncle that was a professional drummer, and I think my dad said, I think I want to get into something more secure. Sure. So he went into worked for Lockheed Aircraft Corporation, so he gave up on that idea of being a trumpeter. And then he was satisfied being a father and a provider for his kids. So when I left for Hollywood, there was nothing that they could do, and I think my parents were, really concerned because I was going to move all the way across the country and try something, and I had no connection whatsoever when I got out here. I had no one to go to and say, help me. And I think they were really worried about it. And but what are you going to do? I mean, I had my headset on and went for it.
Yeah.
And I think the funny thing is once you move to L.A., within weeks, it felt like L.A. just wrapped its arms around me. I kept meeting people that were trying to do the same thing that I was going to try to do, get into acting. And it just sort of happened, and God sort of lays out this plan for you that you don't really see while you're living it. But in hindsight, you can say, if that didn't do that, or if I didn't do that, if I didn't call that person, how.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm articulating this right. I think just by participating and making the motion and being the guy to do it, and putting yourself in that situation where things can happen, is really what life is all about.
Yeah, taking the belief and the action and creating attraction for things.
Yeah. And I've always had a really strong relationship with God, and I've never, ever felt like I was on my own. I always felt like I always have felt like there was somebody with me, whether it was my grandfather that was our colonel in the United States Army that I got to know, and he died when I was 5. But I've always felt like I've had somebody with me, and so I wasn't as fearful, and I don't think my mother and father had that same kind of. Their reaction is always, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Well, why is uh-oh your first reaction to everything? I mean, it's nothing to be scared of. You're gonna.
Reject Nation, I'm interrupting this video because the start of this year, here's some photos. I started off at 218 pounds and had over 20% body fat. Since then, I've dropped close to 50 pounds. I am now at 7.9% body fat. Pretty proud of the results. Now I'm focused on building muscle. So when I tell you I take health seriously, I really do mean it. That's why a few times a week, I do drink today's video sponsor, HUEL. I love these guys. We have 3 fridges here at the office, and each fridge has HUEL. HUEL's Black Edition is a complete meal in a bottle that keeps the HUEL fuel and feeling full, focused, and on track, especially during packed days. And for under $3 a meal, you can get up to 35 to 40 grams of plant-based protein, 27 essential vitamins and minerals, slow-release carbs to help with the energy. It's gluten-free, has 0 added sugar, something that I have found really great in my regimen to losing weight. And they have a lot of great flavors. You can check them out on their website. Personally, the chocolate is my favorite. I'm just a chocolate fanatic. Additionally now, I do know the challenges of what it's like to get your daily greens. And fortunately, they have something to get your daily greens. Their new daily greens ready to drink. It's sparkling, refreshing, and actually tastes good. Each one has 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods with only 25 calories and 1 gram of sugar. No mixing, no mess. So if you'd like to actually help support the channel and, more importantly, support your health, you can try both today and get 15% off your first order as a new customer at HUEL.com/rejects with code REJECTS. Once again, that's HUEL.com/rejects, code REJECTS. Use the code and fill out the post-checkout survey to help support the show. Thank you again, HUEL, for being a big part of my lifestyle.
It's fascinating to hear how, from them coming from the Great Depression era, movies must have been... And
that was a great escape.
Escapism, but for you, it made you a dreamer. It's like such an interesting contrast of development. And you've talked so much about your relationship with God. I've heard you talk about how work can be a sense of purpose for you.
Yeah.
When you go into a role, even for Auggie in Peacemaker, do you approach it with that? What is this character's purpose? Do you think about that as you're doing the homework, the question of purpose?
Yeah, my process, I don't even know how to articulate my process, because I can read a script and, you can follow along where you're going, and you kind of know what your character, what you're about, and where and you start to put together who you think this person is. I don't know how to describe it any other way than that the script really informs me, and then I try to figure out how to make myself fit in that character, or put that character on. And through life experience and people I've met or things that I've seen or witnessed, I can, grab those attributes and form the character.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers exactly what you're asking.
Sounds like a big process of discovery as you're going along.
Yeah. I like to work on things. I've had an acting coach that I've worked with for years, Stephen Bridgewater. I don't work with him that much anymore. He's moved to Nashville. But I like to try different things and find different things, and then work really, really hard at the technical aspect of it, like learning your dialogue, being prepared, showed up, and having thought of a bunch of different things. But then once you're there, you've got to let all that stuff go and just react. And that's where it's beautiful, because you start reacting off the other actor.
Yeah.
And you can, you find it. You could actually want to try and find and create the magic moments in front of the camera.
Yeah.
I think most actors would agree that the more work you do at home on your own, driving yourself crazy trying to find this stuff, gives you the confidence to get there and just let it all happen.
Yeah.
And you feel like you have a net underneath you. You know you've worked and prepared, and now let's just go have fun.
Yeah.
No matter if you're a bad guy, you have to look at that. That's going to be fun. I'm going to get to play this bad guy. You've really got to tap into that imagination you have as a child, where you pretend and make it real. I just saw some footage of Benedict Cumberbatch doing Hamlet, and I was just blown away with his performance. But you know that there's a process that got him to that point where he could do that soliloquy and make it so just sing. There was hours and hours and hours of grinding dialogue and getting to where you were comfortable to know it, that you can get up on stage and you can perform it. And it's the same with anything else, like music. There's hours of rehearsals that you and I don't see, but when the band gets up there and they slay it, that's the beauty, I think. And so actors are very much like that. We have to, I don't know anybody that wings it, and I've worked with some really, really great actors, and from Sylvester Stallone, Harrison Ford, Joaquin Phoenix. It's the same process, more or less, right?
Yeah.
You've got to. I mean, I just watched Sly do this monologue at the end of the season for Tulsa King, and I know he worked his ass off on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I that to me is like, what is that like for Sly? Like, I know what it's like for me, but what's it like for Sly to fucking, how does he cram all that in his head? You know what I mean? But we all have to do it.
I've heard what you practice in private, you're rewarded for in public.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it.
Yeah. And you were speaking about learning of a character as you're kind of reacting with them in real time. You worked with John Cena a couple of times before you actually worked with him on Peacemaker. And I was privy to a lot of the conversation of people reacting to John Cena as Peacemaker for this, like, wow, I'm surprised of the emotional range and depth he actually has. What's it like for you to be literally witnessing him evolve as an actor?
John has taken it to a level that I'm so impressed with. He is so good.
Yeah.
And he has really created he's transformed himself into this persona that he's got going on, and which he allows him to be very vulnerable and make fun of himself, and he dives deep. I mean, James Gunn and I were, and all the other actors, watching him ad-lib. Like, you'll do a scene with him, and he'll go off script, and he'll start doing stuff and saying stuff, and you're looking at him like, my God, this guy's like researched his ad-libs. They're not even, I mean, I've never heard that before. It's like he's really given it a lot of thought. Like, if I get a chance, I might go down this route. Or if I get another chance, I might go this way. Or I've got this prepared, and I've got this prepared. You're like, it kind of makes me feel lazy as an actor. I'm like, I'm not putting in enough work. John's taking it to another whole level.
Yeah.
And it's funny. And his ad-libs are funny.
Yeah.
He's a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
He really, really is. I mean, he's you know, he taught. I don't know if you remember in the season 1, he sat down, he played Home Sweet Home, Motley Crue. He taught himself how to play the piano.
Oh, didn't realize.
Yeah, he just taught himself how to play the piano. I mean, that's hard. That's not fucking easy. You know, I mean, I'm going to sit down and teach myself how to. You know, I admire actors that do that. I don't think I've ever been tested that way. And I don't know if I can pull that shit off, man. You got to learn how to play a guitar for this part. Really? Do I play it left-handed or right-handed? Well, what are you? I'm left-handed. Well, the character's right-handed, so you got to learn how to do that. I mean, that's so daunting to me right now. Like, man, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, when I see these actors doing this kind of stuff, and I'm going like, fuck, I've never really been tested that way.
Yeah.
I have such admiration for him. And John's one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, he's taught himself Mandarin Chinese to speak Chinese, for Christ's sake.
Oh, yeah. He did a movie with Jackie Chan. Yeah.
I hope John doesn't mind if I tell this. I don't think he will. First off, when we go in the makeup trailer, John is in the makeup trailer with everybody else. He's not like off in the star section of the thing. He's in there with everybody else, but he's always reading a book. He's always reading a book. Think about that. I don't know what the books are. I mean, he's always got a different book, and he's reading.
Always learning.
He's reading about something. He's studying something. We do takes. John will be there. He's present. He's there. And then when it's over, he's not going to sit around on the set. He's gone. Yeah. Now, where he's gone, I'm assuming he's gone back to that book or whatever he's studying or whatever he's working on because he's got so much going on. You know, he's got a wrestling career going on. He's got this and that. The guy's got an unbelievable work ethic.
You know what I find really interesting about you two? As you were talking, I was like, you guys both represent two versions of quote unquote, and a lot of the roles you guys play is like a certain version of masculinity. And what would be your definition today of like what? Because let me put it like this: you play a lot of like tough guys, but really you have this sense of vulnerability. Even for Auggie in season 1, as repulsive as the guy is, there's this strange sense of I kind of get why Chris would want his approval. There's this weird sense. What is your key to finding the heart underneath these like flawed masculine men?
Well, I think that, fathers are fathers for the first time when they're fathers. Nobody is born a dad.
Right.
And so you've got all these different kinds of dads out there being dads, but nobody really knows what's the handbook on being a dad. Same with motherhood. What's the handbook? We're just people that grew up and had children, and now it's our job to raise them, and we do it in whatever way we can based on the environment we came from.
Yeah.
So my father was tough. He was aloof. He was intellectual. But he was a loving guy, and I'm not my dad. I'm more of a blue-collar kind of guy in real life. But I can apply. It all comes from your own life experience that you can apply. You can put on these characters as you're portraying them, so you get an understanding. What was the environment? What's the time period? This guy's this. He was raised this way. You can start to it's like an equation you put together, and you form it that way. My idea of a man is informed by the media that I grew up with, and I grew up with Daniel Boone on TV and John Wayne in the screens.
You mentioned James Bond with your father.
And James Bond, Sean Connery. Those were my dads. I remember my dad has passed away. It's been 11 years. But my dad was an intellectual, and my best friend's dad was an athlete, an All-American shortstop for the University of Georgia. Well, in my mind, my friend, Kenny Andrews, his dad was more of a role model of what a dad should be than my dad because my dad was a brain.
Oh, interesting.
So I kind of looked at his dad like, that's cool.
Yeah.
My dad, not so cool, you know, which I know that sounds terrible, and I'm saying that, but
I actually get it.
This other
my own
kid's
dad,
dad was more of who I connected with.
I understand.
He was a great athlete. I was a good athlete, you know, going, you know, through school. So I sort of aspired to that guy.
Yeah.
So it's all informed. I think that people that have a good heart and know the difference between right and wrong,
Yeah.
which is why, you know, my frustration is that I haven't had the opportunity to play more. People that have a good heart do know the difference between right and wrong, and I'm on the right. That's why, you know, that's why John Doggett was such a great character for me.
I see now. I see.
He had such a great heart. And then later I did Scorpion, where the guy had such a great heart, and he was a good dude, and you knew he was solid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's to me like what a father should be. Someone that can provide, take care of his family. He's there for his family, and has a good moral sense, moral compass, I think, personally.
That's excellent. Excellent. So,
But you know, mine's based on, you know, I've been going to church since I was a little kid. I still go to church. I go to church, you know, every Sunday. I like that part of it, and of the spiritual part of my life. It informs everything that I do.
well, with Auggie in season 2,
Yeah.
I was so curious to know this, as you were just speaking about like environmentally, the background, the conditioning, these building blocks of creating a character.
Sure.
And with the how much of the backstory for you personally, and maybe I don't know if this will lead to spoilers or not, how much of the backstory did you keep from the Auggie from season 1, which is very different, and there's a very pivotal moment when Chris kills Keith, and that seems to be the dividing line, which is not in this multiversal version, which has led to a very different type of Auggie and his relationship with his kids. In your backstory creation, did you just change that moment in time? Did you have to start from scratch for the most part?
No, it's the same guy.
Same guy. Okay.
Same guy, but just different point of view.
Okay. And
Same guy, father that was tough. He hated everybody. For whatever reason, he hated everybody. Flip the switch. Same guy, he's tough, but he loves everybody. He believes in good.
so just
It's
a
the
different
same
shape.
guy. We all have that. You can wake up one day and just be a bear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you've got this edge on you. Or you can wake up and go, God, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm just going to try to be a good person all day. I'm just going to try to be good. You know what I mean? I mean, I think it's we're all capable. We know where we've been tempted to do things we shouldn't do or whatever. We all know it's there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
So it's you know, Auggie, the Auggie in season 2 is the same Auggie in season 1, except he's got a different point of view, and he's got a whole different set of values.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can see it cleanly.
Yeah.
You know, I've got this great speech that's coming up. Which I think is going to hopefully blow people away. That that's Auggie Smith. That's not the Auggie Smith from the first. It's so completely opposite of what the first season Auggie Smith was like.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait for that.
Yeah,
I can't wait for that.
I can't. It was a hard one. It was a tough speech. It was one of those speeches. While I was doing it, I was like, God, thank God they're giving me. The other guys getting their coverage first while I continue to rehearse this. I thought I had it. I think I have it. I got it.
Yeah. I appreciate the consistent level of honesty that you bring. And I know we're over your time. I want to kind of end this on a little bit of a fun note. Terminator 2 has been parodied a bunch.
Sure.
And I brought up Walk the Line earlier, my favorite musical biopic. And there was a parody movie I personally really love, Walk Hard.
Yeah, I never really saw that movie.
Oh, you never saw it?
No, but I've seen clips where that guy goes, "Wrong son
Wrong
died."
kid died.
Yeah. You know, the interesting thing, I should probably take a look at that. That was a line of dialogue, and there was a line of dialogue that James Mangold that I changed, where I rant and rave in the little Dias, Arkansas house, the sharecropper house, and I'm throwing things around and I'm screaming at God. And James had written it where God took my baby. He was like cursing God, and I said, you know, he's not going to curse God. He's going to curse the devil. The devil took his baby and snatched him right from him. So we're gonna curse the devil. And Mangold loved it. And when you hear it, when you watch Walk the Line, I literally, scream, the devil took my baby. The devil took my boy. That's powerful stuff.
It is.
I believe as much as I believe in God, as much as I believe in the devil.
Well, yeah.
You can't believe in one and not the other.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about here, more or less. I mean, there's evil and there's good, and there's a clean line to get to it. You just have to be susceptible and go for what's good.
Okay, then that would be my real last question. For the characters that you build, do you usually consider what their faith level is and what their faith might actually be?
No, but my faith gives me an understanding of it, how vulnerable we are as human beings. And so anything that you can conceive a human being is capable of doing. So as good as you can conceive a human being to be, they can be just as bad.
Yeah.
And in between there is all of us living. And you're going to meet people that you just know give off a bad vibe, and they're just bad people.
Yeah.
And you're horrified at what they do. But you're also, when you go to the movies and you see someone doing something incredibly good and kind, it has the same impact on you in a different way, right?
I agree.
So in between there, that's what you grab and apply to your character as you're working. This thing I have coming up with Tulsa King, this guy I'm playing, is one of the most complicated characters I've ever done. And I can't wait to see what they do with it, because this guy is a deeply religious guy.
Ooh, fun.
And you can take religion to an extreme that's not beneficial to a lot of people around you if you get too extreme with it. So, it's interesting, man.
Yeah.
It's big world, big universe. We're all here doing it. And I think our storytelling that we're doing now through movies and platforms are very beneficial to people.
Best empathy experience, I feel.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a good way to put it.
Robert, you are the shit. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate your background and research you did for this interview. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, man, thank you so much.
Appreciate
It's an honor. It's easy when I've been already following this information for years. So I was like, yeah, I know exactly what I want to
I appreciate it. I
thank
appreciate
you
it
so
very
much. And I can't wait to see what the epic monologue is in Peacemaker Season 2. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you again, Robert.
Awesome. Thank you.